guys, so here's engine build part 3. Cylinder head is on. The studs are all in. I used them down inside the block, started them down and stuff. I'm going to show you guys a little trick that I did. See those studs down there with the ARP head studs? Everybody knows it's a pain in the ass to get them in there, so I use a magnet. Watch this. Okay. Ta-da! Alright guys, sorry, I definitely got a little ahead of myself here. I didn't record much. So this is part 3 of the engine build, assembly and stuff. Now I guess I can do just a quick run through of what I've done with it so far. Now, the head bolts, I have ARP head bolts, but I will screenshot a sequence and the torque specs and stuff. Everything is all torqued down and stuff like that. So these are 10 mil. I put them there because I lost the originals, but I use red Loctite, and along with these ones down here. I loosened this up here because if you don't, obviously you might fight with getting this around it. So sprocket, basically how I got this sprocket on here was I put the keyway down inside the groove. I tapped it in there with a little hammer just to kind of, hold it in there. And then I used a big socket like this and, tapped it on there. So now I'm ready. I wanted to show you guys, this stuff behind the cam gear. So now I'm ready to install this cam gear here. I've got my timing bracket there for the stage 4 BC cams. Okay, now I'm ready to, obviously install that cam. Time it, honestly. I gotta find the bolt so I can turn the crank, but this is almost in time. I have to turn it. I'm gonna rotate it again, bring it around again. So this timing mark here, if you see it right there on the sprocket, matches up with that mark on the oil pump. Okay, timing is on there. I'll walk you through it. This is how I did it. I started off on the exhaust cam, wrapped it around the intake cam, and then I came around this idler, and then I went around the water pump, and then I walked this back like a tooth and a half, so it'll take the slack out of this when you rotate it forward and hit that timing mark that's on the sprocket in the oil pump there, if you see it. And then once all the slack, because it'll put all the slack on this side of the timing belt. So then because these are already in line. So it'll take the slack out of here when you adjust this. You loosen this bolt up, you turn this way, it'll push the timing belt up this way, and it'll take all the slack out. There's no slack in this timing belt whatsoever. And it's right at about dead center. It's on there. So if you can't tell, it's like dead nuts. Yeah. This bolt that I have in there, I used that bolt because I couldn't find the original crank bolt, but I did make sure that it was the same thread pitch and, you know, the threads matched and stuff like that. I just used it to do the timing and stuff. I plan on pulling it out and using the original bolt. It's actually probably one of the bolts holding up the engine on the engine stand right now. So that'll about cover it for the timing. So now I've got to find the other part of the timing belt cover and put that on, and then the ATI damper pulley, sorry, that gets installed next. And then I'm probably going to dress the rest of the engine, like the exhaust, the intake, and the alternator, the brackets, and stuff like that. So let's get to that. Alrighty guys, lost power here at the shop, but so I rotated the assembly to make sure that this was pushed in far enough. So if you look at these, at the belt, it's riding on just the lip, which I like. It's not trying to come off the cam gears. It's flush with all the pulleys. I kind of like that. So like it's not too far in and it's not too far off, you know what I mean? So I just, like I said, I tap it in there and then rotate it until I see how it's guiding up onto this pulley here. So that's kind of how I did it. Okay, so the engine block is painted. Oil feed line is in. Got my cooler line hooked up. I just have the cooler sitting there suspended with one bolt because it's not ready to fully be mounted yet. So I have some other brackets and stuff to put on there, but I'm going to do a time lapse for that. Remember, there's a bolt hole that I was telling you about, this one right here. When we were assembling just the tensioner and all the other components behind the timing belt cover, like the water pump and all that other stuff, we put a stud here to keep this arm from moving when we were tightening this. This is the tensioner. I'll show you why we put a bolt here. You're going to save yourself a whole lot of time and struggling if you do this. I'll show you. So, you take a bolt and you fish it in there. You should never have to struggle with it if you put a bolt in there before you assembled it. So